Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're logging in from. Good morning to our guests here. We're going to give it a second while people are logging in, and I will go ahead and also share the PowerPoint as we get ready here. All righty. Well, welcome once again to Tuesday Talks. Thanks so much for joining us. I know some people are joining from an afternoon time zone or an evening time zone. We're glad to see you here. As a reminder for all Tuesday Talks, just some of the nuts and bolts, go ahead and ask your questions as soon as you have them in the Q&A box, because we want to make sure that we get to most of them and consolidate them. And so if something comes up, it might be answered in the presentation, but it might not. So go ahead and put it in, and I'll be consolidating those. And welcome to those that are tuning in on YouTube. You can ask questions there as well. I'll be monitoring that as well so that we can make sure that we have good dialogue here. And I just want to welcome my guests from Pomona and Wesleyan and Williams. Thanks so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to meet with these students and counselors and families. We love hearing from you and learning a little bit more about your institutions, but also today we're talking about liberal arts, and that's a topic that's near and dear to my heart because I personally went to a liberal arts college and benefited greatly from it. And I loved both the relationships I was able to make inside the classroom and outside of the classroom, things we're going to talk about today. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and let my guests introduce themselves.
Great. Good afternoon, evening, everyone, or morning, depending upon where you're logging in. My name is Chandra Jostakova, and I'm the Director of Admission at Wesleyan University.
Hello, everyone. My name is Marcus Burns, and I am an Associate Director of Admission at Williams College.
Hello, everyone. My name is Adam Sapp, and I am the Director of Admission at Pomona College. Really glad to be here this morning.
Great. So we thought we would start off by presenting the platform, or kind of a broad brush stroke of the liberal arts. We recognize it might be familiar to some, but we also recognize that the concept of liberal arts is unfamiliar to many. And so as you're thinking about the liberal arts, and I also want to put it in there, and sciences, we do teach science at our institution. I want to talk about how it's not actually a political ideology. So the liberal piece is not nothing to do with political ideology. Nor is it a focus solely on the visual and performing arts, but rather a broad body of knowledge where you get the breadth and later depth to apply and practice that knowledge. Many of you are experiencing a liberal arts experience as part of your high school curriculum. And also many of you know Ashoka University, which is a great example right in your backyard. So as you're thinking about the liberal arts and sciences, think about the courses that you're taking right now, as well as Ashoka University in your backyard, but also certainly take a look at what our institutions also have to offer. I also want to point out that typically when we refer to liberal arts colleges, we're referring to small residential undergraduate colleges where professors teach, collaborate, and advise. And the liberal arts curriculum is designed to be a broad curriculum aimed at developing the whole person. So what does that look like when we drill down a little bit? So again, you're going to explore the depth and narrow in, explore the breadth and narrow in on the depth. So typically students will have a couple of years to explore, see what's out there, taking a range of courses, and then narrow their focus, or what we would consider as declaring your major. As I mentioned before, that allows you time to explore, consider interests, different interests and directions, and maybe change your mind. And so many of our students that enroll at our institutions are undecided, or they may change their mind, or may add another major or concentration or minor to their existing. Changing your mind or coming in undecided is not seen as a failure. Rather, it's exactly what we're hoping for, and our institutions are set up in a way to support those who are undecided or may change their minds, because that's what we believe a strong liberal arts curriculum will help students, again, experience different mindsets, different opportunities, different ideas, and think about what they're passionate and interested in studying. Students are going to take a coursework across the disciplines and provide a foundation to build upon critical thinking. They're going to analyze information effectively and think within and across disciplines. And so the curriculum is also characterized by as reading and writing intensive. And regardless of what career path you go into, regardless of what major, communications and effective communications is so critical to the day-to-day. And so we're going to hone in on those skills while you're at our institutions. We're going to refine those skills, and we're also going to support you. Our institutions offer many different programs and support networks to assist you in that process. And then in the day and the age where specialization and the focus on career, we want you to consider that the average adult will change their career 5 to 7 times in their career lifetime. And so the liberal arts curriculum is not preparing you for one career, but really preparing you for many, and not necessarily the demands of today, but the demands of the future. And so in developing the whole person within the liberal arts, we believe that education is not a process, rather an experience for which will introduce you to new concepts, ideas, challenge your current thought and understanding of the world, push you a little outside your comfort zone, and allow you to grow both intellectually and personally. And now that I've framed a little bit about the philosophy and highlighted the characteristics of a liberal arts education, let's discuss how this is expressed in and outside the classroom. So I want to turn it over to Adam.
All right, thank you, Chandra. Everybody, I think Chandra did such a great job of giving us that top level, high level understanding of really from a philosophical point of view, what is the liberal arts attempting to do in the life of a student? And I really want to drill down this morning on one aspect of how we take the philosophy and we put that philosophy into action, and that is the classroom experience. One of the things that is so critical, as anyone knows when they go to university, is you want to be in classes, you want to be in labs, you want to be studying, you want to be engaging material. Some of the material that you engage is going to be new, and some is going to be familiar. Many of you may decide to study chemistry. For example, one of the photos in this slide is of a chemistry lab. That may be a very familiar topic to you. And so you may have studied chemistry at high school, you may really enjoy chemistry, and you may want to push deeply into chemistry and the university level, maybe even in graduate school as you become a chemist. But there are so many other areas that you will not experience in the high school curriculum that a liberal arts institution will be able to expose you to when it comes to the broader side of learning. Many of you in high school, for example, don't take classes in anthropology. Many of you don't take classes in classics or in ancient languages, perhaps other than Sanskrit. Some of you may also be thinking about looking at majors that combine disciplines that you're familiar with. So biochemistry, or perhaps neuroscience, which might combine with psychology and science, depending upon the institution. At other institutions, maybe you're looking at engineering. And those are topics usually you don't necessarily go too deep into high school. And so I could keep going here because the classroom experience at a liberal arts institution is so dynamic, and it's also so able to be personalized. And I really want you to think a lot about that, because so many liberal arts institutions empower the student to have the classroom experience that that student wants to have. So if you want to do 2 majors, most places are going to be celebrating that. If you want to do a major and a minor, if you want to have a lot of research that's part of your experience, or you want to have instead, you want to have internships that are part of your experience, all of those things combine to form that liberal arts experience, but they're all drawn from a classroom experience that is usually small. Most of us have small classes. We have low student to faculty ratios, and most of us engage in what we call peer-to-peer learning, meaning that the students that are going to be in your class are just as important to your learning as the teachers and the faculty and the professors, that you learn as much from your fellow students inside of the classroom as you do from your teachers and your mentors. That's really the way that a liberal arts classroom is set up. Many of you perhaps are bright and smart in your classes, and you know the friends that you keep, they're bright and smart too. That's why they're your friends. That doesn't change in a liberal arts environment, right? You surround yourself with smart, engaging, dynamic people, and a liberal arts institution is full of those folks who will bring their experiences to bear inside of a classroom. The final piece that I'll talk about is the fact that liberal arts institutions are set up differently. Some institutions will have maybe 4 classes a semester or 8 classes a year. Other institutions allow you to take 1 class at a time. Some curricula are set up and very structured, so you may be required to take some classes in certain areas, and then you have flexibility in other areas. Other liberal arts institutions have what's called an open curriculum. You can take any class, anytime, anywhere. And so curricular structure is something that liberal arts colleges don't share. It's highly varied and something that you need to really do your research on. So with that, I'll turn it over to Marcus, who will talk a little bit about life outside the classroom.
Thank you, Adam. And so much of the importance of these liberal arts and these residential colleges is being open to and knowing that when you arrive on our campus, the learning is going to be happening really 24/7 in all aspects of the campus life. And so lots of that is going to be outside of the classroom. So your mind's not only turned on when you're directly in front of your professor, right, hearing from them and being involved in those discussions, it's also turned on in everything that you're doing on your campus, when you're having discussions with classmates in the dining halls, or when you're practicing for your sports teams or for your music recitals or whatever it is, or also, when you're going to office hours and getting opportunities to get to know professors outside of the classroom as well. So it's really making sure that your education is rounded out in that way and that you get the opportunity to truly engage across the campus. So for many students, college is really the first time that you have the opportunity to make all of the decisions for yourself. And certainly at liberal arts colleges, that's going to be the case, because many liberal arts colleges, we've talked about flexibility, many of them are not going to have maybe a core curriculum or all these kinds of compulsory courses. You are really getting that opportunity, as has been said, to come in and decide what you're going to study, but also decide how you're going to spend your time outside of those classes and when you're not necessarily just studying. So we're really focusing on that and making sure that students get the opportunities to practice many different life skills while you're there on our campuses, so that you're doing some of that in this supported atmosphere to be ready to then take those next steps and take on challenges across the world, wherever they may arise for you and wherever you decide to go. So part of how we're doing that is really making sure that, as you see there, it's learning by doing. So actually trying things. So yes, we will have discussions in our classes, you will write papers, and you will take tests and things, but it's also important that you get to actually try things out for yourself, so that you're not just going through life saying, well, my parents told me this, or I've read this in an article or something like that, and that's clearly what I have to do, right? No, you have to do what's going to make you happy and make your life fulfilling. So by starting to do that on our campuses, that's really helping our students to identify what's going to come next and also prepare themselves for it. So by being the leaders in the different clubs and organizations happening on our campuses, they're residential. So that means that our students and many times our faculty and staff are around campus. So when classes end, they don't just scatter, you still have opportunities to engage on a different level with all of those people. So you're going to be the leaders, you're going to be the ones starting clubs and organizations. And also on our campuses, you are continually encouraged to explore for the means of preparing yourself more and deciding which classes you're going to take and what you'll be involved in on our campuses, but then also, again, for what's going to come next. So our colleges are going to have wonderful career resources, right, to help you to figure out what that's going to be, and then to find internships and take the right classes and prepare for those so that you can be ready to go off to whatever those next steps are going to be. And as you see there at the end, it's an iterative process. So there's going to be throughout your life, many versions of you, and you're working on that while you're here. So you're always, again, your mind is open as you're taking these classes, as you're having discussions with classmates and professors and deciding what that's going to be. And then you may choose one particular thing that you're thinking about for maybe an internship after your first year. And then that experience is so important because then you can decide, do you want to continue that with that? Do you want to dive deeper? Do you want to pivot and go somewhere else? But that's what's so important, that we're always giving those opportunities for our students to make sure they're continually evolving on our campus and feeling supported as they're doing so.
Well, welcome to Wesleyan University. We are located in Middletown, Connecticut, and despite our name, we're actually a small city of about 60,000, though small and certainly very small with regards to India's standards. We do have a significant South Asian community, one that's supported by 2 Hindu temples, 3 Indian restaurants, and a specialty grocery store. Every fall, we welcome nearly 1,000 area residents to partake in Navratri. We celebrate Holi in the spring, but usually that's during our spring break. So in this past year, we had to evacuate because of COVID. So unfortunately, we missed that opportunity to celebrate. But I also wanted to let you know that in Middletown, we have everything you could possibly need to make your transition to Wesleyan smooth and supported. And we have lots of shops, restaurants, bookstores, as well as other offices and stores that will, again, support you during your time. When you visit campus, and I hope you are able to visit campus, whether it's virtually or in person sometime soon, you'll notice that there isn't a gate or a fence around our campus. And that was actually intentional. When we were founded, we wanted to be seen as a resource for the city of Middletown and vice versa. So we were founded in 1831 and as a progressive approach to a liberal arts and sciences education. Though we can't say we were the first to put sciences in the liberal arts and sciences, we were one of the first to teach natural sciences, in addition, contemporary literature and modern language. Additionally, we were one of the first institutions back in the 1800s to go co-ed. And in the 1950s and 60s, we're actively recruiting students that had not been traditionally been well represented in higher education. And these efforts are evident when you take a look at our campus community. The diversity of our student body, faculty, and staff highlight this commitment. So today, Wesleyan is known for our progressive curriculum that's rooted in social justice and activism. We're known for empowering our students' voices, a long history of investing in the student experience, as well as a deep commitment to access through our test optional policy that's been long existing, as well as need-based financial aid meeting 100% of demonstrated need and multiple pathways to enroll. Though we carry university in our name, we function more like a larger liberal arts college with a very small graduate population. We offer a world-renowned ethnomusicology program, as well as mathematics and also graduate programs in the natural sciences. With the university distinction comes benefits, and we, let me pause and say we have about 150 full-time graduate students compared to our 3,000 undergraduate students. So when I say it's small, it's a very small portion of our student population. So the focus is on that undergraduate experience, but our students get to benefit from, for example, $25 million in NSF funding to help support research, and our students can get involved in research as early as their first year, and as well as access to world-class facilities. We subscribe, as Adam had mentioned before, different types of curriculum. We subscribe to the open curriculum. So then rather than set guidelines and requirements to graduate, we empower students to explore the depth of the liberal arts education and empower students to direct their own educational path with the support of our highly structured advising system. To graduate, students will take 32 courses or credits and major in one major. And most of our students are going to declare that major at the end of their sophomore year. With the open curriculum, it allows a great level of flexibility for students to double major, triple major. I want to assure you students and families that most of our students come in thinking undecided or perhaps one major, but many of them will leave Wesleyan with multiple majors and not necessarily by force and not with extra years. And that has a lot to do with the flexibility of the open curriculum. And so students can study disparate areas of, say, dance and economics. Also, the benefit of an open curriculum is that it's a very different class dynamic when you're sitting in a class for which students have chosen to take that course versus being required to take that course. And you'll get to know the faculty quite well. 2/3 of our classes have 20 students or fewer. So in the classroom setting, there's a great deal of engagement, and students benefit from the diversity of thought, diversity of experiences of their peers that are also taking that class. So you may be an econ major, but one of your classmates in the anthropology class that you're taking is a physics major. So again, looking at things through different lenses and different angles support our students through that learning process. To complement the open curriculum, we also offer interdisciplinary majors that students will identify and apply to at the end of their first year. And this is an opportunity for an interdisciplinary approach through our College of Social Studies, Integrated Sciences, East Asian Studies, and Letters. For those interested in engineering, we have a concentration in engineering, as well as a 3-2 program with Caltech, Columbia, and also Dartmouth. And that is a program that you would reach out to your advisor or work with your advisor once you're on campus. It's not something that you apply to when you're applying to Wesleyan. To support the ideas outside the classroom, and also to support the founding mission of Wesleyan to educate and to contribute to the common good. We have multiple offices and programs that are going to support students. Excuse me, I am getting a call coming in, apologies. We have multiple centers that are going to support student ideas, whether it's civic engagement, social entrepreneurship, and we also offer grants anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 to allow students to take an idea and bring it to life. A couple examples is our Center for Prison Education, which was a student initiative. So we're one of a handful of institutions that are addressing recidivism through higher education, as well as a sophomore by the name of Lin-Manuel Miranda and his classmate Kiara Hughes received funding to write and produce In the Heights. Later combined efforts or joined forces with Tommy Kail, who was a government major, to produce Hamilton. So a little shout out to Hamilton and Lin-Manuel and his team there, but different opportunities, again, for our students to take their ideas, take their passions, interests, and turn it into a meaningful project, a meaningful opportunity to reach out into the greater community. Our residential experience, or let me backtrack and actually talk a little bit about opportunities for unpaid internships and research. We do have $5,000 to $10,000 grants, as I mentioned before, that also will support students to take an unpaid internship or engage in research. Recently, we had 6 students that 3 of them interned at IIT, and then other 3 were conducting research at the Tata Institute for Research. And so they had funding for travel as well as food, lodging, and received a small stipend in the end, as well as gained some amazing experiences through world-class research facilities as well as professionals. In the application process, we pay particular attention to the activities and the interests that you have and what's meaningful to you. And that's so that that you can take advantage of our 275 plus different clubs and organizations that are available. As Marcus had mentioned before, this is going to round out your education, provide leadership opportunities. This is going to connect you with peers that you may not have otherwise have met. And again, an opportunity to fully engage both academically and extracurricularly. And at our institutions, they're oftentimes one and the same. Last thing I will say about the campus experience is that our residential experience is characterized by a progressive independence model. And we require all of our students to live on campus. And students coming in will live in traditional residential halls during their first year. Sophomore year, they'll have access to program thematic houses, apartments for juniors, and then wood frame houses for our seniors. And so it is a progressive independence model. So as you get your own home, you're figuring out things like community. You're figuring things out of going shopping for toiletries and things that you need to make dinner with, and coordinating that. It is clean, and it is safe. Our housing for international students, they are allowed to stay during break. But that progressive independence model means it's clean for the first 2 weeks, and then it's on you to learn those skills about keeping a clean and tidy home, and one that is going to support your learning experience. The campus community is a 5 to 10 minute walk to any of your courses. So living in a wood frame house, you're still living on campus as well. And I think for many of our students from India, a 5 to 10 minute walking commute is quite lovely compared to some of the commutes that you're enduring these days to get to and from school and to and from some of your activities. And I'll just end by saying at Wesleyan, more than half of our students, when they graduate, they're going into fields such as STEM, engineering, business, marketing, finance, marketing and communications, as well as the entertainment industry. We do not offer these majors, yet our students are going into these fields. And that's just a testament of the strength of a liberal arts and sciences education, and they're becoming leaders in their respective fields. So as you're thinking about liberal arts and sciences, again, it's not necessarily one pathway, but multiple pathways. So I want to thank you for your attention and turn over the mic or the screen to my colleague, Adam.
All right, thank you so much, Chandra. Now we are going to learn a little bit about Pomona, and we'll start with a map. We are in the great state of California, specifically Southern California. We're 35 miles east of Los Angeles in the city of Claremont, California. And as you can see there, we're on the eastern side of Los Angeles County, but you have, of course, the beaches and the sunny vacation land of Orange County and San Diego County for your weekends. You also have hiking in Yosemite, you have Joshua Tree and many national forests to the east of us. In Claremont, you're about 3 hours from Las Vegas and about an 8-hour drive, an hour and a half flight from the city of San Francisco. So all of the things that you might think about California are at your fingertips. You are not going to go to San Francisco every weekend, that's for sure. But you do have a lot of options in terms of social life in the city. As you also may know, Los Angeles is the second largest city in the United States, 10 million people in the county of Los Angeles, about 4 million people in the city of Los Angeles. But Claremont is 35,000. So Claremont is a really nice, wonderful little college town suburb just east of LA. And it has all the things that you're going to want as a college student, including more than just one college. So Pomona is the founding member of the Claremont colleges. You may have heard of Claremont McKenna, Scripps, Pitzer, and Harvey Mudd. Together, these 5 schools, together with Pomona, these 5 schools form the Claremont Colleges or the Claremont Consortium, which means that you have the opportunity to take classes beyond Pomona. So as you can see there by some of the numbers, at Pomona, we offer about 600 courses. Within the Claremont Colleges, there's 2,500 courses to take. Pomona has about 1,650 students. Within the Claremont Colleges, there's about 6,000 undergraduates. And the idea here is very simple. You attend one school, but you can take classes at any of the schools. You live at one institution, but you can participate in extracurricular activities, eat at the dining halls, and engage in academic life at any of the institutions. And so this idea that you're at an institution that is a liberal arts college with small classes and low student to faculty ratio, very true, but you also have a lot more opportunities across the street. You will not need a car, you walk or you bike or you skateboard if you're real SoCal, and you are able to really take advantage of the resources of the Claremonts. And in the next slide, we'll learn a little bit more about Pomona. I think one of the things that is definitely true about our institutions, all 3 of us are dedicated to that personalized classroom experience, and we do so through a variety of majors. At Pomona, we have 48 different majors. Knowledge at Pomona is broken down into 4 areas. We have the natural sciences, the social sciences, the arts and humanities, and what we call ID, or interdisciplinary majors. So an example of a science major, you might be able to figure that out, right? That might be physics or biology, perhaps in the natural or in the social sciences, maybe that's history, or maybe that's economics. And then maybe in the arts and humanities, maybe English major or philosophy major. But ID majors, interdisciplinary majors, are majors where we take familiar ideas and we kind of smash them together. So we have one major called PPE, Politics, Philosophy, and Economics. It's kind of like a triple major. You sort of smash all three together. It's one major, but you do a year of philosophy, a year of politics, a year of economics, and then you write your senior thesis on some topic that interests you it intersects all three of those areas. We have another major in ID called Public Policy Analysis. This is where you take something you're really passionate about and you study it from a policy level. And public policy analysis is the only major at Pomona that requires you to do a semester-long internship. So these majors are very appealing to students because we often have students who have multiple interests, and ID majors sometimes combine those interests really neatly and nicely. Of course, we also have a very diverse student body. We are one of the most diverse institutions in the country. We have 50 states represented, 60 students from 60 different countries. We have, in addition to that, if you're looking at students who are perhaps interested in, we have intellectual diversity, students who are interested in lots of things, and of course, first generation students. About 20% of our students on campus are the first in their family to go to college, including many of our international students. High graduation rates and of course, high internship completion rates. One of the interesting statistics on that page is that 40% of sophomores have internships in LA. One of the great things about living close to a big city with lots of Fortune 500 companies is that you can take advantage of that and be able to do an internship very early on if that's something that you want. And then we have, of course, academic research in the form of the SURP, the Summer Undergraduate Research Program. And that funds students up to $5,000 to do research on campus with professors in an area of their choosing. Next slide. And I'll round it out here. Some of these numbers are familiar. As I said earlier, we have low student to faculty ratios, low average class sizes. One of the things that I think is just really key is that 80% of faculty live within 5 miles of campus. We actually have a housing program that encourages our faculty to live close. So when you want to attend the office hours that Marcus talked about, or they want to show up at your theater production or your athletic event. This is the reason why they live close by. They live within walking distance, biking distance. The faculty and your teachers are part of the community that they teach in because they live very close by. Other quick stats: many students study abroad, including international students. You may think that your trip to the US to study for 4 years is study abroad. Sure, it could be, but it also could be that you really want to spend a semester in Ireland your junior year, or you really want to spend a semester in Argentina your junior year. Those are all available to you as a member of the community. We do guarantee housing. So as Marcus talked about with the housing and the residential component of campus, we're absolutely believe that residential education is important. And so nearly all of our students live on campus. We do have a small percentage that live off campus, but we do have housing for everybody who wants it. And then I would be remiss if I didn't end with a little bit on the arts, because I do think that a vibrant liberal arts institution, about 39% of our students major in science. So as Chandra talked about, we do have a lot of science. We do have a lot of labs and a lot of research, but we also believe fully in artistic expression and the value of learning about the arts. So whether that's music, dance, theater, or visual arts, all of those majors as well as extracurricular activities are available to you during your time at Pomona. So I'll end there and I'll turn it over to Marcus at Williams.
All right, thank you very much. So Williams College is located in northwestern Massachusetts. So we are about a 3 to 3.5 hour drive from both New York City and Boston, Massachusetts. So those are two major cities that our students can certainly get to. And in normal times, our students are going there kind of on the weekends. Every weekend, you can probably find someone going to one of those cities. But our students are really spending their time on our campus, the importance of this residential component that we talked about. So we are nestled beautifully in the mountains. So when you're sitting on our campus, literally a 360-degree turn, and you can see mountains in the distance everywhere. And that kind of just gives a protected feel in a way that our students can really feel when they get to our campus, that they are ready to learn and that they are able to kind of be the change makers on our campus, be the movers and shakers, the people that are doing things. So by not being in kind of a city or right by one, it does certainly allow our students to be the leaders and be the ones driving that campus community. And so when you think about the actual students on our campus, we are focused on undergraduate education. So we also have a very small graduate programs, as some of my colleagues here have said. So we have those just over 2,000 undergraduates, and then we have about 50 graduate students or so. We just have 2 graduate programs. So it's really catered to the undergraduate here, and that's who we are focused on. So you see a bit about the numbers of our students and some of the countries. It's actually now, with the current incoming students and everything, we're up to now 49 states. We can't get those 50. It's just a tough number. So we have that there, but then also students coming from all these different countries. And what's so important about that, again, is just that it's integral to our learning that we're bringing in students from all over the globe, from all walks of life, so that when you come to our campus, you are not around all people that just look and sound and think exactly like you. You are going to be around people that think differently than you, that challenge the way that you think. And quite honestly, there might be some people that at first you just can't stand in class, but then in these discussions, you start to get to know a bit more about each other, and maybe it might move to more of mutual agreement, right? Rather than just arguments all the time or things like that. And we think that's really important, because that gets you ready for the world, right? That gets you ready to go off and lead, and to be kind of leaders in different companies and organizations that you're going to be, and to tackle the challenges that we've talked about. So that's so important. And you see here about 9% international students, and those are just students who require a visa to come and study in the United States. So when you include students who are US citizens but happen to go to high school outside of the US, that number then jumps up into double digits. So really making sure that we're bringing all types of perspectives, and certainly an international perspective in different cultures is really important and certainly represented. So all of this comes together within the classroom, right? And how we're doing our learning. So we keep very, very small classes. So for Williams, the average class size is just 13 students. So we have a 7-to-1 student faculty ratio. So your professors are the ones that are teaching all of your classes, right? But then again, the conversations you're having, the different people that will be in those classes with you are going to be so important to that learning. And by keeping those classes small, it really encourages all of our students to speak up, so that everyone feels ready to do so and empowered to say, you know what, my opinion is valid, here you go, and just feeling a little bit more comfortable to do it when you're not around hundreds of people in every single class that you're in. And that really works for our students. But then also, similar to what Chandra mentioned, by having our students pick the classes that they're in, that's another way that you're encouraging students. So we don't have a core curriculum, but we mentioned liberal arts, right? And so we do want to make sure that our students do not come in with their head down, focused on one thing only throughout their entire time. So the way it works for us is we have what we call divisional requirements. So we have 3 main divisions that students choose between. And so that's going to be the arts and languages is Division 1, Division 2 is social sciences, and then Division 3 is going to be physical sciences. And so every student, regardless of what major or majors they choose to take, will have to complete at least 3 courses in each of those divisions I mentioned. But then that's as far as Williams takes it. So then you, the student, get to decide which classes you want to take. So each of those divisions has hundreds of courses within which you can choose between to make up your requirements. So you really do have the autonomy and truly make your Williams experience very personalized and exactly what you want it to be. And then we also allow students to supplement their learning outside of the major that you'll choose with what we call concentrations. So those are our version of minors that you might see elsewhere. So they're going to be fewer courses than a major, but they're different in that they are all interdisciplinary. So they'll pull courses from multiple different departments to make that up. And also very important when thinking of these classes and thinking of you being the one diving into your learning, it's very important to mention the Williams tutorial. And so what that is a class that is just going to be 2 students and the professor. That's your class for the entire semester, right? So you really get to be the ones steering the discussion. The professor is there to help guide you. Yes, they are deciding what you're going to read and the sources that you'll use, but then you and your partner come in there, and every week when you meet, you are the ones leading that discussion. So you're making up 50% of that. So our students really need to be ready for that kind of learning, and they're not mandatory, but with the type of student that chooses Williams, more than half of our students choose to take a tutorial. And also because we offer them across the disciplines, every single department, as well as all years. So your first year on our campus, you can get into a class that's just you and one other student. So when you think about the college kind of respecting your intelligence and your right to speak up and wanting to have you there and have you represented, this is a great way that you can do that, and that our students are certainly doing that. And then also, as we kind of move along, there's students having the opportunity, as we talked about, to continue to explore throughout your time. And so our career center is very important, giving students the opportunities to take on internships and to be involved just around our community. So we have over these 200 plus student organizations that our students are the ones that are leading in, that they have money from the college to put on whatever type of programming that you want, to bring in different guest speakers and lecturers and different people that are really experts in their fields to come to our campus to teach yourself and your classmates, right? But then also making sure there's opportunities to get away from campus. So over the summer, our students are staying on campus. We have close to 300 students staying on campus over the summer to do research across the different disciplines, but also the Career Center is working with you to find internships and research opportunities outside of the campus as well. So with research, more than 40% of our students do participate in research. And again, not just in STEM research or science research, but we certainly do that in our humanities as well. So just across the disciplines. And then also other ways that our students are just continuing to try things out. So many of our students through our Center for Learning and Action, being able to be involved in the local community and maybe go and be a tutor at the local elementary school and work with students if you're thinking about teaching or things like that. So really, again, making sure that you get to try things out so that you can continue to make your decisions moving through and then figure out what that's going to be when you take off from Williams. So we're very generous at Williams. We're going to meet 100% of the demonstrated need for all students that we admit. So when you look at our international students, more than 60% of our international students receive need-based financial aid. So we're really proud of that. And the average financial aid grant for those students is about $67,000, the average financial aid package. So really making sure that it's affordable. And then important with that is when you're at schools like us, there was a question about triple majors and things like that. Whatever you choose to study is part of your education. So we don't now charge more if you wanted to study more things, right? So whatever you're studying in the classroom, what you're doing outside of the classroom, all is included, and that's important to know. And then our schools are going to be very generous to make sure that when you get to our campus, you can then truly take advantage of everything you want. And so with Williams, one way we do that is by paying for the books and materials necessary to take every single class for every single student that receives financial aid at Williams. So that makes sure all of these perspectives are represented in every single classroom as well as in all of our different major departments. So that's a bit about Williams, and I know we can open it up to questions now, but thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Marcus and Adam and Chandra. Thank you so much for sharing about your institutions. And we do have some questions, so we'll just go ahead and dive in. We've talked about flexibility. All of you have talked about flexibility, that being one of the beautiful things about liberal arts colleges. In light of recent events, even more flexibility is required. And I think there are some questions that we have gotten today, but also in previous sessions about testing requirements, classes, curriculum. And so I just wanted to give you an opportunity, maybe one of you or each of you talking a little bit about your test flexible policies, test optional policies, as well as are there any changes or updates with regards to curriculum, seeing as we have people here from the Middle East, we have people here from internet like IB programs, we have people here from India, you know, where their boards were canceled. So just kind of any updates you might have on how that impacts kind of your review process.
I'd be happy to start. Wesleyan has been test optional for 7 years now. So I know many institutions are leaning or bending on behalf of the students and looking out for the best interests of the students in the review process, recognizing that many of the testing opportunities are either have been canceled or not available at this point in time. So I do want to point out that regardless of whether you decide to send your scores or not to a place that is test optional like Wesleyan, that is one portion of your application, and it is looked at as well as your academic day-to-day work, as well as your activities, your interests, your writing. So it is a small portion of your academic record, but it's something that you get to decide at Wesleyan whether or not you want to submit your scores. What might be helpful, we can't tell you whether or not to submit your scores. What's helpful is to go on to our website and look at our profile to see if your scores align with the average of what we've admitted in the past. And that can be helpful for you, but also checking in with your college counselor or your advisor as to whether or not it makes sense for you to send in your scores. In terms of the curriculum changes, we have just welcomed our students onto campus as of yesterday, and we have about between 300 to 400 students that are taking classes remotely. And so the vast majority of our students, over 2,500, are on campus and will be taking classes in person this fall. And so that's how we approach things. But some of our classes are going to be solely online because of the instructor or professor's needs, or students can elect to take those classes online and be remote because of their own personal needs.
So Pomona is fully online. We have made significant changes to the learning environment, in the sense that there is no campus learning. There is a lot of dynamic activity going on in the form of extracurricular life online and academic life online. But the campus itself for this semester is fully online. The students themselves, I would say, I think there was initial trepidation, to be honest, but faculty have been working overtime all summer to create dynamic content and classroom content that has really been quite appealing to students. Of course, the hope is that this is a one semester solution, that we're looking to be on campus next semester. We'll make that decision later in the fall. But the reality is, for students who are coming in, we have made some changes too. We are SAT or ACT optional for this coming year, only for this coming year. We've moved our deadlines. Our deadlines have moved back to November 15th for ED1 and January 8th for RD and ED2. And we have really embraced a policy of flexibility. I've already started to see it with transcripts coming in and school policy shifting, and we have had to adapt training and create some workarounds so that we are evaluating students in a way that they're not penalized because of the pandemic.
Yes, I would, just for Williams, I would definitely echo what Adam just mentioned about adaptation. So our offices, especially with these liberal arts colleges, our admission offices have always tried to adapt as much as possible, and also make sure that we are looking at the entire student in the process. And so we've done that at Williams. And so when you do that and you're not kind of so strict as to exactly how you evaluate every single student and always looking for the same thing, it enables for this adaptation. So for us, we certainly have gone with a test optional policy for this year only. And so that's just a direct response to the global pandemic, but then also looking at several other different things. So we know with the pandemic, it has impacted students' ability to continue to be involved in different extracurriculars that you might have done, and it's impacted your time outside of the classroom as well. And so we're going to be as flexible as possible in looking at all of the context that we can in applications. And then for Williams, in terms of just looking institutionally at the upcoming year, Williams took a step back and said, just with everything going on and how learning is going to be, we have actually put out a 15% reduction in our tuition for all of our students. And that's certainly going to be represented in students receiving financial aid as well. So we are planning on having students here on campus, and we're welcoming our first students back this week. So we're really excited for that. But I think that reduction in tuition cost for all students, and as well as for students that chose to go remote, they do not have to pay room and board, kind of all of that, I think has been helpful for our students and their families.
Wonderful. Thank you for those updates. Often there are questions about outcomes for students who graduate from liberal arts and sciences colleges. And so because there may be a conception or misconception that a lot of students go to liberal arts colleges and then go straight to graduate school. So do any of you have kind of examples? I know that you might even have things on your website already. If you want to put those links in the chat too, that's awesome. But just kind of give us a little bit of a sense of, what are some of the examples of kind of success out of a liberal arts college and liberal arts and sciences college.
I'm happy to start. I think one of the things that is definitely important, and all of us could talk about this, I think, for a long time, is that oftentimes the result of success is because of student empowerment and student connection. And, the learning that happens on our campus can result in many, many kinds of outcomes. So for example, we have a student who graduated in 2016 who was a physics major. And his name was Scott Tan, and he studied physics at Pomona. He studied abroad at Oxford in the Oxford Study Abroad program and did more physics. He got a summer research grant one summer to work on artificial intelligence in a lab in Northern California, and that sparked his curiosity and interest in the subject of materials science, which is essentially how do we create materials that can be used in the creation of artificial intelligence. And so he used that research to continue on in his senior year to do even more research on artificial intelligence, and is now a third-year PhD student in mechanical engineering at MIT, and last year was named one of Forbes 30 under 30 young emerging scientists because of his work, particularly in artificial intelligence. And he is an American Indian student. He's part of the Crow Nation, and he's also a really, really cool guy, super nice, down to earth. He talks to physics classes at Pomona all the time, and he loves Pomona for what it gave him, but it also allowed him to jump into something completely different as he moved into the world of physics more deeply and pursue that PhD.
Wonderful, thank you. Any other example?
I guess I would just add that the vast majority of our students that graduate go directly into a career. And I had mentioned before, they're going into areas that we do not offer for majors. And that's probably true of all of our institutions. But I also want to point out that at least in the United States, many of the graduate programs and professional programs are expecting experience prior to applying to those programs. So it's not unheard of to take some time off before applying to law school, medical school, business school, and so forth. And that's intentional so that students are coming in with greater life knowledge so that they can contribute to that classroom and real life experience. And I did put a link to one of our alums from '95 who was a history major and is now at the forefront of COVID in his company, Sherlock Bio Industries, and in terms of what he has done with his education, going as starting out as a history major and now, a biochemistry firm and leading the charge with the COVID.
And I would just say for Williams, it's really around 80% of our students, most recent students, are employed or participating in some type of service within 6 months of graduation. And then about 15% of them went right into graduate school or some type of program that way. And so it's really completely up to the student, and kind of, as was mentioned there, just really empowering those students to decide what's going to be next for them. And so students feel really happy and ready to go on to whatever it is. And so for some students, that might be they go and kind of work right away at a school because they're thinking about teaching and want to do that, and now they're doing that. Other students, they might come and work in our admission office, right? Or other students going off to consulting or investment banking, or some students going off and doing a fellowship through Fulbright. Lots of those every single year are students doing different fellowships. And so it's really that's the most important thing, that students have taken those 4 years to really decide what's going to be next, and then ending up with really nice outcomes after.
Great, thank you. I have a question about, in light of a lot of us watching kind of our older brothers and sisters go through the process, and maybe coming from cultures that are a bit more metrics-based, test-based, and now kind of thinking about this whole, like listening to you all saying that you're very flexible and adaptive, and you're very careful in the review process. Do you have any recommendations on, what a student should present to you to, I hate to say this, but this is kind of the way that everybody's saying it, set yourself apart. Do you have any thoughts and recommendations coming from a very metrics-based kind of background? How do you shift to then show you admissions officers what fit actually means?
I'm going to steal a point that I think Adam made in a previous session, but being your authentic self is important. And please do not try to present the person you think we want to see, because that's trying to hit a target from 30,000 feet up. And, whether it is creating a football team or an orchestra, whether you're athletically or musically inclined, we are creating a classroom, a community of varying scholars and interests. And so we're not necessarily looking for one thing. And there are many ways to express your interests or your passions through our application. And whether it's the activities section, whether it's the short questions, whether it's the required supplemental questions that some of our institutions have. We also have interview opportunities, whether they're required or optional. That's a great opportunity to express maybe some pieces or interests that you have that may not be easily expressed in your application. But please don't see this as an opportunity to unload everything that you possibly dabbled in from the time you walked to the time now that you're applying, and recognize that we're reading through thousands on thousands of applications, and we're intentional of creating a diverse community of differences of opinions, of mindsets, of backgrounds, and so forth. And putting your authentic self out there is the best thing that you can do. And if you have questions, feel free to reach out to our admissions offices.
Wonderful. So we don't have a ton of time left. So I just want to give each of our admissions officers a chance to kind of give like a little final thought. I do also want to encourage you all to reach out. I mean, the email addresses are here. I think if each of you also want to kind of put your virtual engagement links up in the chat as well, that would be helpful. We are always limited in time and being able to kind of cover all the things that you might have questions about, specific questions about the institution. So please definitely go to websites. They're frequently being changed in times like these in terms of updates. So please make sure you go and visit that. But Marcus, Adam, Chandra, do you have any kind of final thoughts you want to leave us with?
Sure, thanks. I would just say, I know it's a tough time. It's a very tough time for all of us, and it may not sound. I mean, it's tough to say, but don't let this add to your stress that you already have going on. So the college process is very important, but don't think that you need to now change everything and that we're going to be people that don't understand what's going on in the world as you are going through. So continue to think about what you like, what makes you happy, and pursue that in your experience in high school. And then the college process will work out because you're also then doing your research to figure out why a school might be a good fit for you. So don't just look at it as how do I fit into this particular school, but also make sure you're looking at how does this school and these schools, how do they help me get to where I want to go? And so just continue to focus on that, continue to focus on yourself. And I think that all of it will kind of work out. So, but best of luck with everything. Continue to stay healthy and safe where you are.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my advice is to be kind and understanding to the people around you. I think this process can make you feel very stressful, but you need others in order to get through it. You're going to need your teachers, you're going to need your counselors, you're going to need your parents, you're going to need your friends, and all of those people who kind of orbit you as you move through the year are going to be a real source of energy and inspiration. And in some respects, they are going to be directly impacting your application. If they're a little late on a deadline or they take a little longer to get back to you than you might want them to, be kind and be thoughtful and be understanding. I think that this process is a learning process and a self development process. And if you do it well, you learn as much about yourself as anything. But if you do it really well, you strengthen and deepen the relationships of the people who've helped you through it.
I will just add that, believe it or not, the application process isn't the hardest part of the process. It's that making that decision at the end. So something just to keep in mind as you're interacting with admissions offices and you're researching information, you're also trying to figure out what is a good fit and match for you later on when you have wonderful offers in hand. And we represent 3 different institutions. If you like how we approach, please know that there are similar houses in different neighborhoods that are very similar to how we approach our education. And so keep an open mind. And I know, as Gloria had mentioned, in a very metric-centric environment that we tend to live in, don't just judge us by our ranking. Try to delve a little deeper and understand why a particular institution is a good fit and match for you, and not necessarily where we fit on the US News and World Report or whatever ranking system that's out there. But we all want you to be safe and worry about the things that you can control, and know that we're all going to read your application and recognize that we were once 17 and 18 years old as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Adam and Marcus and Chandra, for taking time out of your busy schedule to share with us. And thank you for everybody who's tuned in and who will be watching the playback. We're so glad that you joined us, and join us next week for another Tuesday Talk. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.